Yeah, first race here at 2:30. We're going to look at the first 4 races on the program before we get back to Wanganui.
Yep, exactly. The first of those races is the Dunstan Feeds Championship qualifier. This one over 2,100 metres, and it's a rating 72 affair, where Marcelina comes up a $4.165 favourite. Katy Perry was terrific last time at Te Rapa, and Red Cayenne in the market at $6 as well. What's the market lead in the first here, Stephen Hunt?
Backing the current second favourite here early doors, Aiden, number 4, Katy Perry. No surprise, punters have backed her in her last 3 starts. She's rewarded punters, they're reinvesting her around here. She has another crack at 72 grade. $5.50 was her opening line, but currently best back runner in what is a very competitive race. Red Cayenne, $7.50 peak, now into $6 in that third line of betting. There's money for Stephen James, who ran in behind Katy Perry last start. A little bit of speaking around Bella Testa, $8.50 off a high of $10.50. Speaking around Suspense as well, a last start maiden winner, just hard to grab its current ratings, but number 13 Suspense, $16 off a high of 28, so there's a decent move there around number 13. But yeah, there's 4 or 5 that have been well supported since betting commenced on Thursday afternoon, but best lead I can give is number 4 Katy Perry, $5.50 second favourite.
Yeah, there's plenty of speed in this race, and a lot of it's from out wide, Brendan, with the likes of Stephen James sure to press forward. It's a little bit messy though. How'd you see the first?
Look, I think it's a nice race, Aidan, and if there is a genuine amount of speed in the race, it's going to help horses with the likes of Katy Perry and also Marcelina, who'll be wanting to try and peel off that pressure up front if they get their sort of coveted spots midfield. Marcelina is a horse who I think is a deserved favourite in the race because of what she is showing here as a 3-year-old filly. Of course, she's been placed over the distance of 2,100 metres, of course, and that was in a Sunline Vase and 3rd in a Royal Stakes. Katy Perry, though, on the other hand, is a horse who was right on the upward plane at the moment. Now, this is a defeat. This is a horse when defeating Stephen James, who was a race rival. Of course, there is a 2-kilo swing between these 2 horses this afternoon, with them staying in the same grade. But Katy Perry, the way that she's improved from winning her maiden 3 starts ago, and then continued on with that win by beating Inscription, who's come out and won during midweek out of Rotorua, and then this when stepping up over more ground over 2,100 metres. Jim Collett has always said that he was excited about the prospect of getting her over ground, and look what she does here. She doesn't just win the race, she goes right through the line over the 2,100 metres. It's never easy to be able to try and back up a winning trend as she looks for 4 on end. I'm happy to go with her again, though, and Katy Perry. I just love the way of her progression with where she's heading. In front of Marcelina, I think that is a horse to beat, Aidan. If she is able to bring her black type form from a previous season, well, then she's going to be awfully hard to beat. Then around Stephen James, who fought on well there to finish into 2nd position. And Red Cayenne, George Simon's favourite horse, who has had some support in the race. Interested in Suspense's market move as well, had been cut in half. Maybe one just to throw into the back end of tries and first falls, but I'm around the 4 in the first, Aidan, and Katy Perry.
Yeah, she was so good last time, and I agree. Let's move you on to the 2-year-old race. The second, it is the Withers & Co. Chartered Accountants 1100. We're Probabeel at 160 and 102. Stephen, that's a slight drift from what we saw yesterday.
You're just tidying up the overall percentage, running this book at around about 119%, with the half does going around. Probabeel $1.50 out to $1.60, but clearly the best back runner. Don't get put off by that slight drift. Holds around about 75-80% of total turnover Probabeel, and I don't think that's going to change. If anything, it could increase the total liability on Probabeel. We're pretty happy to keep O'Charm for us at $2.60. There's not really too much to talk about outside O'Charm in terms of market. Champagne Dancer, the filly by Sham Express, debuting. A little bit of specking around $15. Not sure if that's just V, the $5 on the tote. But Probabeel, look, it's got to do the job. It doesn't owe us anything on the back of losing at a heavily backed favourite on debut at Te Rapa around O'Charm, who ran home the fastest last 600 last start in behind Bavella, who you'd have to say is one of the top 2-year-olds we've seen on the track thus far this season.
Exactly, and probably bringing some of that Bavella form, having run second to that horse at the trials. Brennan, how did you assess the 2-year-olds?
Yeah, I think the Bavella form is bang on the mark there with O'Charm, which makes it, you know, clearly the horse that you have to be worried about. And look, it's going to be a very short quinella, isn't it, between the 2 and the 3, but they just stand out, don't they? Here is Probabeel, and look, things just didn't quite go to plan. I know the horse had its opportunity to be able to pick up maybe a show off at the same time, but there was enough in the run with just a couple of niggly things that she's going to take a lot from the outing. She has a pair of side winkers going on just to sharpen the horse up enough. So, look, if you love taking the shorts, well, the $1.60 is probably worth trying to throw into the odd multi. But if you want to play it safe, probably the safe option is to play the Quinella, isn't it? Because O'Charm finished 30 here and behind Bavella, and we saw Bavella come out and win at stakes level last Saturday out of counties. Let's check in with this run. It was a very good run, as Stephen pointed out, with the way that she's peeled off her last closing sectional here in this race to finish into third position. She was a horse who drew a middle gate, and she was able to be presented, and she let down strongly behind a horse who's clearly improved off this again, Bavella, with the way that she won last weekend from Pukekohe Park. 2 to beat the 3, they really do stand out. Might be a nice race, Aidan, where I think if you entertain, if you don't like playing into $1.60, I think it's a race where you could look to play a very heavy trifecta and try and get extraordinary amounts of the trifecta in first 4. I'm talking heavy units, 2, 3, with a couple, maybe if you wanted to even take it straight, 2, 3. What are you taking behind? Maybe Rosarito, runner number 4, who has one at the trials, has an inside gate, could be that horse who could play into the market. But yeah, big on the Quinellas and trifectas, and just try and be a glutton and take as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be competitive and tactical as well. So the early part of that race, I think, will go a fair way to deciding it. Race 3, the Coastline Markers 1100. The next to go is the third, and we do see Joyanna from last year's profile of winners that we showed earlier. 421.65 comes up as favourite ahead of How About That, $4.50, $6 for Akoya Merlini. Stephen, no real press here, or is there?
Yeah, there is number 6, Aidan. They've come on to this individual, Joyanna, as soon as betting commenced on Thursday afternoon. Mark Blackie, gee, got us a couple of weeks ago with a first starter in Blood Warrior, where they're reinvesting the team here on Joyanna. 4 from 10. A well-profiled horse, loves resuming. 2 from 2, first up over a 90-day or after a 90-day spell. $4.20. She opens second favourite now. She sits at that top line at $4.20. Outside her, it's very even without giving a clear second best fat runner. So they're speaking around How About That, who has Baisu form. $4.50 off a peak of $4.80. Money for Akoya, also the stablemate, and Bella Joy at $9 off a peak of 10. And also Merlini and Stratocaster have not been friendless. So it's basically, if you like one here, I'm not going to put you off, have a crack, but best backed in the first 48 hours has been number 6, Joyanna. Second line now on that top line at $4.20.
Yeah, I want to dance like him and Merlini, the main pace, although our speed map, Brendan, has Joyanna going forward as well.
Yeah, and Akoya, I think it's not far off the mark there with the way that horse can get up and run over the 1100 metres. So yeah, this is the race that Joyanna won last year, as we saw in that little piece before joining us. 321 days off the scene for Joyanna, but did look very good through this time last year. When you go through the day, the horse won on Melbourne Cup Day, and then obviously here in this race last year. A big respect around a move as well from the Mark Blackie team. If they start lining up, I think you really do have to start listening. This is Merlini. Always been a bit of a fan of Merlini. This is a horse who won first up to the races out of Hastings. Did beat here Don't Blame the Music, who's just gone down by a very small margin at Rotorua on Wednesday. Of course, Merlini was a quality 3-year-old from last season who still wasn't really the finished product, and this was encouraging to see him been able to take a sit-in behind them and then go past a runner like Don't Blame the Music. You go back to his run in the Cambridge Thoroughbred Breeders' Stakes, which was very good. Of course, as a late 3-year-old. So that was Merlini. The other runner that we need to consider in this race as well is the Basu form. And How About That when finishing into third position. Now, Basu's come out and won a Group 2 following this. Of course, Basu actually peeled off the fastest last 600 for the whole meeting back here on the 6th of November. So that has to be a rocking hot form, doesn't it, of this horse coming out and beating Volpe Veloce, a Group 1 winner from last season. How about that went up to win the race here? You would have thought about here, I'm going to cash me outside, but in the end finished into third position. How about that? You could expect to be a big improver from the race. I've marked him on top in front of the 8 Merlini and then the 6 in Joyanna, but I'm very wary of some money going on Joyanna with this Mark Blackie trained runner. 3, 8, 6 and 4 in the third of the day.
Yeah, it looks a really good race too, doesn't it? Let's move you on to the fourth, and this one, the Bentley's Chartered Accountants 1200. Graffiti at 380 and 140 length, and as for Tony Pike, interesting that Vinnie Colgan, who was aboard this horse, has gone to Walk and Buy for the same stable at 550 and 190. I thought Walk and Buy's run was absolutely enormous last time as well. It does draw wide, 450 Giant Gem and $5 Molto Veloce. Stephen, we spoke about Molto Veloce earlier and attracting money. What about the Pike runners?
You're definitely not friendless. Number 6, Pink Graffiti, heads the market at $3.80, holds the highest amount of turnover. But again, not stressing that we're going to move that price in anytime soon. Just a nice spread over 4 or 5 runners, including Molto Veloce for the Stephen Marsh team. See, they've scratched a favourite, Raposa Repeater. Take what you want out of that. But Molto Veloce, well supported, the 3-year-old filly, to beat the older horses here at a $5 price. Could have got $6 yesterday afternoon around the filly. Speaking again for number 1, Giant Gem. No dramas if the rain comes prior to this event. Its highest rating was produced on a slow 8 last campaign, so Giant Gem well supported at $4.50. Walking By at $5.50, well supported. A little bit of specking around Spindle at $16, who does love HQ. I think majority of her wins has been at Ellerslie, so definitely not friendless at $16. So best lead, Pink Graffiti, just in front of Molto Veloce and Giant Gem. So they're going pretty much in favouritism order here.
Yeah, it's an interesting race. Brendan, how'd you see it?
Look, it is, and I think the key video we're going to show you very shortly as well. Yeah, Morioka's a horse you can get up and run. We've see this horse with the blinkers coming off this afternoon has drawn a low gate for Andrew Corder and Richard Jewell, and of course Napali is another horse you can find itself working forward as well. Yeah, this is the Full and Bloom race. Now we get to see Pink Graffiti, who ran into 4th position, Walk and Buy into 6th spot. And look, I was happy enough with Lock It In's run, considering it had to cover a lot of extra ground to finish into 8th spot. So it's a real wall of horses on the line here. Pink Graffiti, look, hasn't been too far off them. You go back through the Hawke's Bay Carnival, of course, and the last day of the carnival was able to produce a really big effort to run 3rd behind Blonde Line, who came out and ran them off their feet out of Otaki yesterday. Beaten them behind Muck Tomb following that, and then this 4th here from Pink Graffiti. Look, in the end, I ended up leaning towards Walk and Buy. It was the fastest last 600 in the race here when presented into 6th position behind Full and Bloom on Melbourne Cup Day. I didn't find too much between the Pike runners. I went with the 10 in front of the 6. Lock It In, runner number 7 out of that video. I was happy to give the horse another chance with the way that he was able to stick on. Comes out of a very strong maiden race, probably our strongest maiden race we've got going around at the moment in the northern region with what's bounced out of it. And then runner number 1 in Giant Gem, who produced a big finish to finish into 3rd position, 8 and behind Marzamino.
Yep, same way for me. Brendan and I had Walk and Buy on top as well. We're going to take a short break here on the Punters Lounge Live and get back to Brendan Popper to look through the later part of the program later. We're going to head to Wanganui for the next to go. That's race 3